Jennifer, it is an honor to get to talk with you. I've loved all of your work, not just the Babadook, but also the Nightingale and your Cabinet of Curiosities episode. It's amazing to think we're already at the 10-year anniversary of the Babadook. How does it feel for you reflecting on this movie's legacy?
It's crazy that it's been 10 years. I mean, I remember being nervous just prior to Sundance, wondering how it was all going to go. So yeah, it's I have a strange fondness for it. It's like a child that's grown up and gone to college or university or something. But yeah, I'm really excited to be coming to America. I'm going to New York and LA, and also in Austin on the jury of Fantastic Fest. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so it's an exciting trip coming up.
That's amazing. I can't wait for you to see, because I mean, I remember it took off a lot here, so I can't wait for you to see all the fans it's made out here. And so you mentioned being proud of it, and a question I always like asking filmmakers such as yourself who have such a big breakout hit with this first film is sometimes they want to sort of break out apart from that and show that they're not just this one film, whether it be a radical genre change or even just a sidestep within the same genre. And I'm curious, have you ever felt at times that sort of grapple with, yes, I made the Babadook, but I can do more than that for audiences?
Oh, definitely. I think, people were surprised to see me make the Nightingale Next. But for me, filmmaking is very much about starting with an idea or a feeling or a thought that you have, and then it grows and grows, and then you want to make that next film. It's not like I set out to be, the queen of horror, but I also respect horror enormously, and I think it's much wider than a lot of people realize. And the history of horror goes back to the beginning of cinema, so it's not a new genre. Yeah, for me, it's just about writing the next thing and how to get it made. It's still as hard to get things made as it was with Babadook. It was very, very hard to get that film up.
I can imagine. So what was one of the biggest selling points then that you had in trying to get, producers and financiers on board for this film?
I think the script. I mean, even with the script, there was 4 or 5 companies interested overseas, but initially, at the time, Australia, the filmmaking culture was very snobbish towards horror. It was, seen as something sort of lowly and not a real film. So it was quite difficult to get it financed here. But when we got this interest from overseas sales agents with the script, that's when the money started to sort of fall into place. But, I'd written many films before this, before the Babadook, that never got made. So, I was at the end of a long line of trying with different stories to get them up. And with this film, I deliberately sort of aimed to make a film that could be made for a lower budget, largely set in a house with 2 characters. These were things, pragmatic things that I knew I couldn't go beyond that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get it financed. But yeah, even during not so much during production, but in post, there was a lot of resistance to what people finally saw as the finished film by the financiers and by people involved. It wasn't a straight course to the finish line. I had to really protect it. And so did the producers, and they did. So, yeah.
I'm glad
we had fun, which helped.
I'm glad that everybody stayed as protective as they did, because it is perfect the way it is. I mean, it is such a moving film from start to finish. And I'd love to hear, this film explores so many important themes of grief and processing. And what has been one of your favorite things to hear fans of the film, such as myself, approach you with as their takeaway from the film and its story?
Yeah, I've had personal sort of correspondence with people whose own lives, I remember one person writing to me whose father died when he was a kid, and his mother raised 3 boys. And he said watching the film was better than 20 years of therapy. And he, was very moved by it through his firsthand experience. I had another person who just lost their partner suddenly, tragically. Their wife died. So things like that. I mean, you really only hope for that with a film, that people are moved and that it speaks to them so directly, and that, I'm not sort of thinking that film can necessarily change the world, but if it can move people and comfort them or offer them something, then that's my job done. Nothing better.
Well, and that's what I love about the horror genre as well, is that, it can really deliver some of that catharsis we all need for certain things in our lives. So kudos to you on getting to do that for so many people. And so one of the things I love too, that this film has in its legacy, is that the Babadook has become an LGBTQ plus icon. And I know you've talked about, you find it funny and great at the same time, but I'm curious why you think it is sort of, because I am in that community, why you think it is we've sort of embraced him as one of
maybe you can explain to me, but I think it started as a joke, by being sort of miscategorized in Netflix, and then people just went with it, and I love it. I mean, I love hearing drag queens talking about the Babadook. It's like, I've made it, I don't know. I love that it's still alive and, being referenced in popular culture. There's no greater compliment, I think. I mean, he's a bit theatrical. He's, who knows? Who knows?
I was going to say, I think the theatricality of it is a bit for me of why I embrace him. So I think that's definitely part of it. I see I'm running low on time. So I did also want to ask, since you mentioned, this film staying alive with people, it's also a rare one in the horror genre, in that it doesn't have any sequels. You've talked about in the past how you and one of your producers held on to the rights, and that you had no interest in doing so. But I'm curious, with 10 years time, this is an entity who, like we've talked about, really does promote emotional growth and processing within characters who encounter it. Have you had any thoughts or change of mind in the over the course of the 10 years about producing a follow-up?
No, I think I'm too involved in other films that I'm trying to get made. I mean, if there suddenly became some desperate urge to tell a story related to that, I would probably say, okay, all bets are off. I'm going to go and make the sequel, but I just can't see that happening. I feel that the idea has really been explored. There are other sort of scary films in the wings, that one in particular that I'm really invested in happening, and also a horror series that I've been developing, which I'm really excited about as well. So those ideas are sort of, they're taking over.
No, I love that. I mean, and especially since this story was so rooted in Sam and Amelia's, grief, I love that it's okay to just leave it closed-ended like we do with this one. Yeah. So before I let you go, then, can you tell me a little bit about any of these projects you've got coming up?
I can tell you that I'm teaming up with a very well-known horror writer or author to try and make one of his books, and it's not Stephen King. So that's all I can say at this point. We're hoping to release information about that in a couple of weeks. We're in the middle of deal making. But if that goes ahead, I'm super excited about making that next year. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to keep my eyes peeled then. And I love that you made that quick note. It's not Stephen King. Because
I mean, I love Stephen King, of course. There's nothing against him, but it's not him. So,
well, hopefully one day you get your hands on the rights to one of his properties, because I think you would do it justice. But in the meantime, I look forward to keeping the word alive about this film. It doesn't need me to keep it alive, but I will do it nonetheless, because yes,
please, and encourage people to see it in the cinema. I really do. It's starting, when is it? 19th of September.
Yes,
and I'll be at some Q&As in New York and LA. But yeah, I hope people go out and experience it together, get scared together.
I hope so too. I saw it when it was on Netflix when I was in college, and I'm definitely going to go see it in a theater myself because I love this film. So, Jennifer, it's been such an honor. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Grant.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye.